Welcome to another edition of Two Up Front, presented by Sports Radio America. I am Baxter Colburn.
And this is Simon Provan.
Simon, how are you, sir? It's been 2 weeks.
It has been. How was your Thanksgiving, Baxter?
It was very restful, a little disappointing with the Packers losing, but still, I got to spend the day with the family. It was a good time, honestly.
Awesome.
What about you?
Good. Yeah, we actually went up to our friend's cabin that they just purchased a little while ago, spent a couple of days up there, hung out with them. So that was during the weekend, which was great just to get away, be out in the big woods.
Absolutely, yeah.
Fresh air and all that good stuff. But Thanksgiving was fantastic. Got to see both sides of my family, as we always do every Thanksgiving. So, yeah, man, it was a great Thanksgiving, but happy to be back here on Two Up Front.
Absolutely, yeah. A lot of crazy MLS action taking place over the last 2 weeks, and we're going to make sure to talk about all of that in depth. Some transfers already happening as well, plus some other rumors, but the big thing that we will be getting to for a majority of the show a little bit later on in the show will be the Audi MLS Cup 2015 between the Columbus Crew and Simon Provan's Portland Timbers.
That's right.
So a lot of good things to get to today. Just want to take a moment to remind all of you, though, that you can catch us right here on Sports Radio America on Fridays from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time on sportsradioamerica.com. Live 365 and tune in. And then you can also find us on demand as well on iTunes. Download our podcast. Give us a review. Tell your friends about the show. We're also on demand on iHeartRadio and on Spreaker.com as well.
We're also, you can find us on social media. On Facebook, we are Two Up Front. On Twitter, our handle is at Two Up Front Soccer. Same thing on Instagram, at Two Up Front Soccer. Of course, we have our own Twitter pages as well, Twitter feeds at Baxter Colburn and at Simon Provan.
Absolutely, yeah. And, the timing of the show always is kind of variant, but you can also watch the show on Periscope as well. So if you are listening live on Spreaker and you'd rather see our beautiful faces instead of listen to our soft, sultry voices.
Oh, that's debatable.
It depends on the day. I shaved yesterday, so that's kind of decent. You're looking a little scruffy. Are you doing the no-shave November?
Not technically.
On purpose?
Not technically.
Not on purpose?
Right, not on purpose. I think most of our listeners know by now that I'm also an actor, so
True.
I don't really control the look of my face as much
the
as somebody else
controls.
Yeah,
it's like, what am I doing this month? It's well, you're not going to do it. You need a goatee. Okay.
I have noticed the last two auditions that I've been on, I didn't get the jobs. I went in clean shaven, and when I saw who was called back, everybody had full beards. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to start growing it out again.
Start growing it out again and just start grooming it. You do that just for men, maybe. Just, make it look nice and fine and beautiful. Yeah. Wonderful. All right, well, a lot of good things to get to today, but first thing we want to talk about is something that isn't even around in MLS yet, but it's the thought of it, it's the hope, it's the dream.
It's the frustration, it's the questions, it's the why.
Exactly. What is it, Simon?
Well, we're talking about Miami and David Beckham's group trying to get a team down there. I get that he's got a discounted rate, $25 million, rather than the $100 to $110 million that he would be paying if he was anybody else. And that was part of his original contract when he came over as the first DP player. But their third option at a stadium has been shut down. Miami has said no. So now they're looking at option number 4.
How many options can you have? First of all, the fact that they even had 3 options is impressive within itself, but the fact that now they're moving to a 4th option is a little ridiculous because at what point does David Beckham say, enough with Miami? To heck with Miami, I'm going to go somewhere else. Even you could probably find another place in Florida that would be willing to do it.
Well, and here's the thing, too, is there's a time limit on when he gets to actually have this $25 million expansion franchise.
Do you think they're doing this on purpose? Do you think Miami is purposely prolonging this so they can get more money out of him?
Well, Miami won't. It's the league that would.
Oh.
So the league's all for him getting this thing done. He brought on Tim Leiweke to help with this, which is ironic because Tim Leiweke is the one who actually brought Beckham over in the first place to the LA Galaxy.
Might as well.
But what boggles my mind, and I don't think it was any bit of coincidence that Sacramento comes out with its MLS stadium.
Beautiful renderings.
But that's the big question: is you have a team, you have a city in Sacramento that is looking to get an MLS team. They're actively. Kevin Johnson, the mayor, the former NBA star, has said we want an MLS team here, and he has said, granted, we can't put any public money towards this.
Yes.
We're still hurting in that respect. But you got a city that's committed. You have a mayor that's committed, and
that's usually 90% of the battle, right?
Exactly,
there.
right. You've got a Sacramento Republic who's got a good following. So every check box that needs to be checked off, Sacramento has done that. Yet here the league sits on trying to have Miami be the one that comes into play.
Is it because Miami had MLS ties back in the day? You think that's what's still pulling it? I mean, was it the Miami Fusion?
Listen,
if
that was the league's argument, that's the poorest argument you can make because, granted, the Fusion, they were drawing decent fans, but not on a consistent basis.
No, but I understand the pull of wanting to put a team in Miami over Sacramento just because of how big soccer is in Florida, especially in Miami. It's such a big port city. You've got all the Hispanic nations that come in through Miami. Putting a soccer team in there, the world sport, a major Hispanic sport, would be huge in Miami. So
well,
I see
you would think that, but there was a team in Tampa Bay. There was
True.
a team in Miami originally.
Yep.
Or not originally. The original team was Tampa Bay, but then the Fusion was one of the first expansion franchises with the Fire. But they weren't, because they were playing their games on Saturday afternoons. Mm-hmm. Well, what happens on Saturday afternoons? Youth soccer games.
It's true. Or even in Florida, at that point, it's college football.
Sure.
And college football is a major market, especially in Florida with 3 major powerhouse teams.
Now, granted, you do have a team in Orlando that was wildly successful in its first season.
And they figured it out. And I think that now that there is a team in Orlando, Miami should be like, well, we want that rivalry. MLS actually has their act together. I feel like those beginning stages of MLS wasn't exactly what Miami, needed to flourish, but now they've got a functioning, 20-year product of Major League Soccer that, Miami should, if they get a team, should be just fine. But it's getting to that point, though.
Politics in Miami are tough.
It is.
My view is, and that's just it, politics in Miami are tough, yet you look at Sacramento, the politicians are all for this. They're all saying, yeah, let's do this.
I don't understand the reasoning.
You've got a team that's basically going to build an MLS stadium, whether MLS says, yeah, we'll expand
if
or
not, they'll be the greatest show outside of Major League Soccer in the U.S.
Well, and then add to all of this, the NASL is going to have a Miami team starting next year.
Oh, that's right. Owned by, no, it's the Puerto Rico Islanders that are owned by Carmelo Anthony.
Right.
But even still, Miami has, I think they've got Ronaldo. They've got somebody. I forget who it was. They've got some major benefactor.
I think it may be Ronaldo.
I think it is.
Yeah.
I think it's Miami that has Ronaldo.
Original Ronaldo, the Brazilian.
The fat Ronaldo, as they call him now. He's slimmed down a little bit.
Well, I was reading about that. He actually has a condition that has kept him heavy. He's on medication, and that's why he's been so big.
That makes sense. Yeah, he did kind of
made me feel a little bit bad for calling him Fat Ronaldo.
I mean, that was
years.
just kind of what all those people called him. I was just going with the crowd. No, that was my first mistake. My mother raised me better than that. But I find it interesting, though, that Sacramento is been after a stadium for so long, but then you also look down in San Antonio, who is also trying to push heavily for an MLS team, and nobody blinks an eye. Nobody says anything. Nobody really talks about it. It's like, here's a random new article about Sacramento or San Antonio, yeah, one of those Sans.
One of those S's.
Exactly. Building, possibly a new stadium. They've got all this, high hype going along with it, but then Sacramento just continues to get tossed to the wayside where it's like, oh, San Antonio wants a stadium and a team? Sure. No problem. Like, what is the league's vendetta with Sacramento?
Yeah, it's really... It's a great question. It does seem like a vendetta. If anything, ultimately, I don't think it's a vendetta. Ultimately, what I think the league is saying, and Don Garber in an interview with Sports Illustrated today had said that they actually don't have an entry date for Minnesota United. That's all in the air. I think that depends on Miami because they don't want to go through another year of having an odd number of teams.
True.
So with Atlanta coming in and LAFC coming in, they'll have 1 year of odd teams, then they'll be back in 2018 with an even number of teams. I think what the league is thinking is when we finally get this Miami thing figured out, we'll have Miami and Minnesota United come in at the same year.
Makes sense. I mean, Atlanta comes in next year?
Next year.
And then LA, when is LA?
Or is it 2017 Atlanta?
They come in the same year with LAFC, don't they? Or does LAFC come in 2018? Now I'm spacing on when that is. But because Atlanta is the next team in, then LA is next after that, and then Minnesota and Miami would be after that. But if they're smart, they'll add Atlanta and LA at the same time, so that way it stays even.
Well, I think, and I agree with you, Baxter, I think the problem they're running into there is that LAFC has the land that they want for the stadium, and it looks like it's going to go through, but that's still also not a sure thing. So it's...
How do you not have how much money did they pay? Didn't you say?
$110 million.
They've paid it. It's been accepted.
Done.
The check is cleared, as it were, but... I don't understand how they don't have all their ducks in a row. And maybe this is just me not understanding the politics of soccer and trying to put
I think
a team
they have their ducks more in the row than NYCFC did.
Doesn't take much to do.
Right. Atlanta 2017, LAFC in 2018.
Okay.
And then Miami.
So there will be an odd year then.
Yeah, there will be an odd year. Yeah. So you'll have I'm assuming they'll just stick Atlanta in the East. And
I feel like Minnesota is going to be ready sooner rather than later, though.
I do as well. They did have problems securing a stadium location, but they did announce a couple of weeks ago that it will be in St. Paul.
Oh, they are going to build a soccer-specific stadium. They're not using the new Viking Stadium.
Oh, no, because the Vikings wouldn't allow that to happen.
Oh, that's right.
It was the Vikings. It was between the group that won the franchise versus the Vikings ownership group.
I think it was the Twins group.
Twins group with a few other with the Minnesota United.
That's right. That's who
NASL folks.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, it would make sense though if they could come in the same time as Atlanta or even LA. That way, there's still an even number, across the board. But it would
be 3 teams at that point. So, but
that's true.
I get what you're saying. Either way, I don't get the Miami thing. That's all it comes down to.
I don't
get it.
I honestly don't understand it either. Miami's such a hot topic. We see U.S. national team games, both men and women, played down there. We see we see Mexico, Cuba, Haiti, TNT, all kinds of games taking place down there. It's a soccer hub. People want to watch soccer.
And here's the thing, Baxter. As far as the league has done so many good things over the last 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for these people who complain about Don Garber because there's no relegation promotion, I understand that, but you got to understand the history of this league to really appreciate what this man has done and where he has led this league to be where it is.
He's done a lot with not very much.
And all of that said, you look at this Miami situation, you just go, why? If it's not working, move on to a city that's ready.
Exactly. And even if they don't stick it in Miami, David Beckham still wants to build a team. But do we see him jump on the Minnesota train? Do we see him go over to L.A. and say, hey, guys, and I know I was a Galaxy player, but, Miami didn't work out. Can I give you some millions and be an owner with Mia Hamm and was it Magic Johnson and a few other big people out there too?
What I can say to that is part of that agreement that he had is that he can't be part of a team in L.A. and he can't be part of a team in New York.
Oh. Bring a team to Wisconsin.
The reason, there you go.
Call James Moran. Let's get the Barons going.
Right.
Dang. That's ridiculous. So then maybe he should go to San Antonio then.
Well, or Sacramento.
Yeah,
be the guy that says, you know what? I'll be the final piece in this puzzle.
That's true.
I guarantee you, if David Beckham were to go to Don Garber and say, you know what, I'm done with Miami. I want to make Sacramento the next team. It'd be done. I'm sure there's other wild cards in there that obviously us laymen don't know about.
Of course.
But it's getting to be ridiculous. And for all the success the league has had, this to me just looks like a momentum-killing deal.
I agree. I think that even if it does go through, I feel like it's always going to be kind of that thorn in the league side. It's like, oh, look, the team from Miami is here. Oh, look, we have to promote Miami. I just feel like no one is ever going to fully get behind it with how much issue it caused the league. It's kind of like what the rest of the world, aside from Don Garber and those in New York, see about NYCFC, but, it's Don's baby. He loves it.
Speaking of NYCFC, can we transition
Please.
here a little bit? So, interesting news. New York City FC, obviously owned by the City Group that owns Manchester City and also owns Melbourne City in the A-League in Australia. They sold, only 13% off of their business.
Okay.
$400 million.
Dear God.
So the rumor is that's the money they're going to use to either probably buy Messi, but perhaps Ronaldo, one of those two.
Either one. Let's buy both. Why not?
But so how does this connect back to our conversation about Miami? Well,
it's all connected.
You've got a few people in New York going, okay, so $400 million, and that only gets you 13% of this company's business. So if you do the math, that ends up being more than a couple of $1 billion that this group is worth. They can't build a stadium in New York City?
Impossible. Not enough space. No, couldn't happen. Never.
And I'm sorry. Once again, aren't you supposed to have a stadium in place in order to get a franchise?
No, that's just conventional. That's what you're supposed to do. Somebody on Periscope says with the money that they want to usually get Messi and they want to get Pep together as well, which would make sense. But the thing with Pep Guardiola, though, coming to Man City, I mean, Pellegrini's doing really well. I mean,
he is.
Man City, I heard it out today on Sirius XM, not to divert too much, but Pellegrini, they are in every single contest or competition that they entered this year. Like, they have the FA Cup, they're still rolling in. They're in the Champions League, they're through. They're top of the Premier League. They just what are they in the Capital One Cup as well?
Semifinals.
They are succeeding in all of their areas. That's not grounds to fire a coach in my mind. But maybe Pellegrini might be looking to hang it up or just change scenery after this year. That is possible.
Sure.
But if you're succeeding on a high level as a manager in all competitions, why would you want to leave?
Especially for an English club. I mean,
Exactly.
that's unheard of.
It is. I don't know. I don't know if he'll end up going or not, but the interview that I was listening to today with him made it sound like he was very happy to be there.
Right. No, great. I love the tweets coming in here. They do make a great point. Yeah, they'd sack him to get Pep. And that's why I say it crazier things have happened. But he's doing well for the English clubs, but Pep is Pep.
It's true. Would Pellegrini then go and take Pep's job at Bayern Munich?
I don't think so.
No?
I don't think so.
Is that very unconventional?
Yeah.
Is he too Italian for the Germans?
Honestly, yeah.
That
I think
makes
he may
sense.
be. He may be.
Yeah, I don't know what would happen with that, but Rafa Benitez might be out in Real Madrid sooner rather than later as well. So maybe
there you go.
Pellegrini
Right.
can go take that job as well. That's a little bit more. The Spanish are closer than the Germans to Italians when it comes to that. But going back to Manchester City, though, as you mentioned, they had an interesting rumor emerge. Since the season is over, we've heard about different players being loaned back and forth. I forget one of the players, but one of the original NYCFC players got loaned over to Manchester City. His name escapes me. He's a field player, very talented young guy. But then there were rumors that emerged about the goalkeeper, Josh Saunders.
Yes.
Going to Manchester City. And my
I'm already laughing.
And my first thought was, what? What?
Well, when I first heard it, I thought surely they're talking about him just going over the train
Yeah.
in the offseason.
No, Simon. They were full-blown looking to bring him over as a player for Manchester City.
I'm not laughing at Josh Saunders, just for the record. He's been on a crazy life journey.
True.
Struggled with drugs, and he seems to have overcome that. So he's actually a great story to talk about in that respect. But we're talking about Manchester City.
Do they not know who their goalkeeper is? Joe Hart.
Joe Hart.
Right. Last I checked, he's
and that's the
one
thing
of the
is,
best in the world.
What they were talking about is him actually being Joe Hart's backup. But even then, I can't imagine Josh Saunders as the player they would look to.
No.
Other than, again, that he's in the City group.
And I get that, but I feel like they could bring in a youth academy. This is nothing against Josh. I think they could bring in somebody from the youth academy, somebody a little bit more established, someone that is a little bit more reliable, not as old.
Right. Well, that's the thing. Josh Saunders is, I believe,
in his 30s.
36.
Yeah. Why would you want him? I mean, you talk about guys in their late 30s in the Premier League. You think of, Casey Keller was successful in Premier League for a while, Tim Howard, Brad Guzan, but those guys have been in that league their entire careers, basically.
Right.
I mean, they are accustomed. They're veterans of that. It's like throwing Josh Saunders out there for the men's national team in a World Cup game against Brazil or something.
Sure.
That's just not going to go well. It's just not. He's not used to the speed, the pace, the technicality of it. It just wouldn't move. It just wouldn't work at all.
No. Well, it was fun while it lasted, but apparently reports are coming out already that
Thank God.
This came from Empire of Soccer, so one of the New York websites, that no, this is not the case. That in fact Saunders will go over there to possibly train, but he will be back in a month as New York City FC comes down to play the Puerto Rican national team in a friendly, off-season friendly there. And actually, Patrick Vieira, that'll be his first game with the Baby Blues, as I like to affectionately call them.
Of course.
He still won't officially be in charge, but that'll be his...
Why will he not officially be in charge?
His contract doesn't start until the actual preseason starts, so that's why.
That makes
sense.
sense.
But no, Josh Saunders will not be the next golden goalkeeper at Manchester City.
I wouldn't even know what to do. I could see it happening where he goes over to train. Joe Hart gets hurt in the game. Josh, we need you, and they ride.
And they're
Josh
playing Manchester United
to the Premier League, and they win the title after Josh Saunders saves the game-winning penalty kick.
That almost sounds like the script for the movie Goal, but it was obviously a field player with the Newcastle United.
No kidding. I just no.
Now,
I'm sorry.
one thing is for sure.
Yes,
this is not a rumor.
Thankfully,
Giassi Zardes,
great player.
You could say it's a rumor in that it hasn't happened, but Reading in the championship is seriously looking at Giassi Zardes. Their manager, Clark, came out and even said that Zardes has been on the club's radar for quite a while now.
It's true, yeah. We have somebody on Periscope asking when we do this show. The show is broadcast on sportsradioamerica.com from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, but you can listen to the show on demand. You can go back, listen to all of our episodes by going to iHeartRadio.com or Spreaker.com or downloading the podcast on iTunes as well, and then just search for 2 Up Front, and then you'll see it pop up. So.
Well, thanks for your kind words, sir.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank
really
you.
Do.
Yeah.
Really do.
It's nice to know that people appreciate the work we're doing.
Yeah.
But Zardes, though...
whose work is also obviously appreciated.
It is. It's being appreciated. If you have anybody from England that's, fairly high up, looking at a young budding player, that potentially bodes well for his career.
Right. I actually, it doesn't surprise me that he's getting interest. What surprises me is that Reading has just come out and said, yeah, we're interested in this guy. And there's other clubs interested in this guy. Reading's actually saying that. A lot of times these managers will basically do a no comment, or they'll make a comment that essentially means no comment, where Reading is coming out and saying, yeah, we're interested in this young guy, and we'd like to see him come over here.
It'd be an interesting move. I don't know. I feel like,
and if it does happen, Baxter, it's looking at a £2 million, so about a $3.5 million transfer fee.
That's not bad.
Is the rumor there?
That's not bad at all for a young, budding U.S. men's national team star. But the reason I'm kind of holding all my comments is because we are going to use this as our 50-50 segment today.
All right.
So the way our 50-50 segment works here, we take on a topic in the soccer world, and Simon and I each take a side of it. We each get 45 seconds to discuss our thoughts and feelings about it, and then hash it out a little bit more after that, and then go to a break, and then let you guys on Twitter decide by tweeting at us at 2UpFrontSoccer, at Baxter Colburn, and at Simon Provan. So 45 seconds on the clock for either of us. I think you went first last
I'm not sure how it went.
I don't remember how it went.
Either way.
Do you want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first.
Okay, Simon will go first. So the official topic is whether or not we believe that Gyasi Zardes should go to Reading. If a transfer offer is made, should he go?
Should he go?
And
is it
ultimately
a good thing or a bad thing?
Yes.
Right.
All right. 45 seconds on the clock for Simon. On your mark, get set, go.
Yeah, Baxter, for me, I'm totally cool. If this move actually happens, I think it's great for Zardes, and I actually think it's good for the Galaxy in a couple of respects. First, it's not the Premier League, so I don't think we'll see Zardes suffer from going over there and then having to ride the bench the entire time. It's the Championship, which, if you look at it, the MLS is pretty much at that level with the Championship, so we're not looking at a huge step up in competition for Zardes, so I think we'll see him get playing time. For the Galaxy, they've got an overload of players. They need money. They got to figure out a way to buy down Gonzalez's contract again, or get rid of Gonzalez. This could help with that if they get this transfer fee, so they can buy down Gonzalez's contract, so they don't have 4 DPs again. So ultimately, for the Galaxy, for Zardes, it's a good thing.
Time. All right. Well done, sir. Nicely done. All right.
That means I'm guessing you're taking the opposite side.
That's usually how this works.
I guess we'll find that out in 3, 2, 1.
See, I believe that it's great that he's drawing this much attention, but I do not think that Gyasi Zardes needs to move over to any other team at this point in his career. He had one good calendar year of a career thus far. He's just now started to break into the U.S. men's national team. And if I'm a young budding forward, I would rather play for a team like the LA Galaxy, where I have the opportunity to learn from Steven Gerrard and, one of the MLS Best 11, again, Robbie Keane. If I have the opportunity to learn from Robbie Keane on a daily basis, that's not going to only make me better as a player, it's going to make me better longevity-wise for my career as well. Zardes, I think he's being a little too overhyped right now. I think the move would be good in maybe another year or two, but right now, at this moment in his career, Gyasi Zardes needs to stay in MLS, work with Robbie Keane and the Galaxy more, and become that focal point of their attack.
Time. Yeah, this is one of those situations that either way you look at it, you can make a good argument either way.
It's true. It is very true. All right, well, we're going to jump to a break. When we come back, we're going to have a special guest on the phone with us. You're not going to want to miss it as we talk a little MLS transfer rumors. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to another edition of Two Up Front, presented by Sports Radio America. I am Baxter Colburn.
This is Simon Provan.
A quick announcement for all of you awesome people out there. If you enjoy listening to Two Up Front, we have a way for you to show your support, not only by listening and following the show, but if you would be interested in getting a little bit of Two Up Front swag and also just supporting a great show, we have a Patreon account. You can go to www.patreon.com/twoupfrontsoccer. And you can check out our profile there, and we've got a few different rewards that we offer out to our fans if you are kind enough to offer us a little bit of a donation as well. So the links will be posted on our Facebook and Twitter pages as well, which is Two Up Front and then Two Up Front Soccer as well on Twitter. We'd love it if you were able to support the show and help Simon and I on our continued quest of building a international soccer show.
Yeah, and by the way, I know we're going to have connected, but just so you're aware, Patreon is spelled Patreon, so a little bit different of the spelling there.
Yes, indeed. So go up there, and then if you can't find our place eventually or right away, search for Two Up Front Soccer. It'll pop up that way. If not, send us a message. We'll send you the link and get you all squared away.
So I'm going to put you on the spot here, Baxter. I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this, but,
okay.
But you know, what's the reason for people, especially during this time of the season of giving? Why should people give to Two Up Front?
Well, I think one of the great things about Two Up Front is that we do our best to reach out to the soccer community, not only here in Milwaukee. We've had guys like Andy Davion from the Milwaukee Torrent and James Moran from the Milwaukee Barons. We try to build a awareness of what's happening in the Wisconsin soccer scene, but we also try to make what we do here, what we talk about, enjoyable for a global audience, because we try not to just stay just in MLS. We stray across the pond occasionally. We have international guests on from England, and we just try to tell people a little bit more about how the soccer world is, how it is, instead of just sugarcoating it sometimes. We're not afraid to be a little too upfront with people.
Right.
So
and we want to grow the show. And,
we do.
And ultimately, we can only do that if we got some cash on hand.
Exactly. So we've had some good support so far, and we'd love to have more support as well. So remember, one more time, it's www.patreon.com/twoupfrontsoccer. Links will be posted on our Facebook and on our Twitter pages as well. So we've got a special guest joining us via the phone, Simon, a good friend of ours that we got to meet down in Chicago in person. He was on Two Up Front for a little while back in the middle when we talked about the Gold Cup. He's been a writer for Vavel. He was a writer for Playing for 90. He is a very acclaimed man. He knows a lot about a lot of different things. It's our good friend Afshin Zahraee. So good evening to you, Afshin. How are you, sir?
Hey, guys. How's it going? Thanks for having me on again. Been listening very closely since you guys had me on the Gold Cup. Very, very big fan of the show. So very, very many reasons for everyone to give back to Two Up Front.
Hey, thanks,
We
Ashman.
appreciate it, man. Thank you. So we brought you in to talk about your favorite MLS team, but a team you enjoy covering as well for Vavel USA and also for Playing for 90, the Chicago Fire. Now, the Chicago Fire have just recently announced all of their players that they're either declining their options on or just not going to chance to re-sign or any of that. And the list came out, and there wasn't, a lot of high-class, high-caliber players too much on there, aside from guys like Jeff Larentowicz, Matt Watson. But then the big name that I think a lot of folks are having a bit of a stink about is Mike Magee. Mike Magee will be officially a free agent and will no longer be a part of the Chicago Fire unless they try to work out a new contract deal. As someone that covers the Chicago Fire, Afshin, did you see Mike Magee not being covered by the team as an option going into this offseason?
Yeah, very, very good points brought up by you, Baxter. It's been a difficult season in Chicago, or if you want to be technical, in Bridgeview, the Chicago Fire. I'm still very bitter about that stadium. That said, like you said, there wasn't much quality on the list. That's probably because there isn't too much quality on the side. But in terms of, let's be specific here on Mike Magee, where the question was raised. The big problem with him is 2 years removed from that MVP season where he scored 15 goals in 22 games. Is very magical. The homeboy came back to the area from Elmhurst. Problem is, though, he's had the hip and knee surgery over the past couple of years now. I think he had those in September of last year. And he's also not been very happy with the medical staff. Actually, his rehab's taken a long amount of time. He was on $400,000, and so the team declined him. And it's very cloudy on whether he's going to come back or not. Because he made some statements just as recent as late October, where he said, "This will be the first soccer team I loved, and one way or another, it will be the last."
Ooh.
So he made a statement like that.
Do you think he's going to retire?
That was a very interesting thing. So he said something like that. Then he said that surgery's made him stronger and better, and he claims that he's ready to play 5 more years. So my take is, I think the Fire are going to offer him a lowball offer.
Mm-hmm.
He just had a second kid. I'm not sure if he's gonna take that. But the only other team that I could see him going to outside of the Fire would be back to LA.
And that was my first thought that I had too. Especially if, as we were mentioning on our last segment, if Zardes does go to Reading, why not bring a veteran guy back in that you could probably get for, as you mentioned, a mid-range amount of cash. He's an established player. You don't want to underpay him, but he also hasn't produced a lot over the last 2 years. I wonder if he would go back to LA.
Well, the other thing to consider with that statement, too, though, is that he may not be saying that he's going to sign with the Fire, but he may be saying that after he's done playing, whoever he's playing with, that he wants to come back to the Fire and coach.
That's not the worst idea.
Oh, wow. That's actually a good thing because actually Fire fans have been trying to encrypt what he's been saying because of that fact. He's saying that, and then also he took out of his Twitter profile, I guess, that he's a Chicago Fire player, which is technically true. But
he's out of contract.
And all that stuff. So, but it seems like the fan base here is also okay with the decisions that have been made regarding Mike, in that we want to move towards more of a younger team. And that Gilberto has kind of taken the reins up front, and that they'd welcome him back on a lower deal, but there are many areas that the team needs to improve on. So I could see Mike going to LA, and then maybe like you guys are saying.
Yeah, and you know what? You can't blame the club. I mean, Mike came in at a high price.
He did. He was a DP for them, wasn't he? Technically,
I believe, wasn't he, Ashvin? I believe he was a DP.
He was a DP. He's not He is not a DP, actually.
Okay.
But he's around 4. He's very high end for a non-designated player.
Okay.
Price range. So basically, what they bought Kennedy, Igbo, and Nite down for is very similar to where Mike Magee is.
Okay, that makes sense.
Well, what I was going to say, you see players have a great season and then they want to renegotiate their contract.
Yeah.
You never see players when they have a bad season decide they want to try to renegotiate that contract.
They're like, look, guys, I just wasn't that great this year. You might as well take some money from me.
So it's fair for the club to come back and say, look, Mike, yeah, we were paying you a high amount, but buddy, you've been on. You've been on,
pretty
surgery.
Poor run of form in the last 2 years.
I mean, he hasn't been playing because of the surgeries, and
but even when he has been playing, let's be honest, it hasn't been the Mike Magee of old. It wasn't that MLS MVP Mike Magee. It wasn't even the LA Galaxy Mike Magee.
Right.
And that LA Galaxy Mike Magee was decent, but he wasn't what we saw during that MVP year from him.
Absolutely, no. You guys bring up great points, especially with like I think hip and knee surgery. That's something; those are very difficult things to recover from.
No kidding,
so
yeah.
I don't think there's any chance he returns to Chicago Fire MVP season Mike Magee form, but there's hope maybe he could be like the LA Galaxy maybe as Baxter was noting there. So we'll see what he does. He has that 28-8 rule where he can choose any team he wants because he's above the age of 28, or if you're in the league for
he's one of that's what Baxter and I were trying to figure out before the show. So he is one of the first official free agents in MLS.
Which does not happen very often, honestly, especially with how MLS works. Now, you kind of make that mention. You mentioned that, Afshin, that he can choose any team that he wants. Let's go from two sides here, and I'll ask this to you, Simon, as well. Where do you think he should go if you could choose? If you could fill a void on another team, where do you think he would be a good fit for? And realistically, what do you think he ends up doing? And I know you kind of already answered it, Afshin, a little bit, but I'm curious to know. If you could use him as a player to plug into any MLS team, saying, "Look, you guys need some forward help. Look, here's Mike Magee."
Boy, that's a
very,
tough question.
Good question. I'll start with or do you want to go, Simon, first?
No, I want you to go first.
Okay.
So he can pull his answer off of you.
Where he can, as you're saying, I've already noted, and I'll touch up again. I think it's either going to be Chicago or LA for him. Ultimately, on where he chooses, I think any team that does want to take him on, depending on how much they pay, are going to be taking somewhat of a risk. You're getting some damaged goods. I don't see any, because a lot of the playoff teams have those holes filled, up top. And the only place I could really see him playing right now with those injuries might be up top or in the hole, but he wouldn't be one of those guys that's running too much anymore. He's getting up there in age, 31. So I don't think it'd be probably for a team that's maybe on the outskirts of just making the playoffs or one of the lower seeded playoff teams. Don't really have any. I can't really think of a team off the top of my head. If you give me a second here, I might be able to conjure one. But
yeah,
it's
Simon.
A very good question.
Thank you, Simon. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I'm kind of in the same place, Ashford. My first thought was, well, maybe a team like Philadelphia. I don't think Magee is ever going to be a starter again. I think he'll always be a sub. The only way he starts is if somebody gets injured.
He's not a bad sub to have off the bench, though. If you need 30 or 40 minutes from a player, he's not the worst option to have at your disposal.
And I think Ashford and I were on the same page as I actually just started looking at teams that didn't make the playoffs, because the teams that did, they're pretty much set up front.
I would make an argument about New England.
Well, there is New England. That's true.
I don't know if I'd want him in New England. Now, I was thinking about that because anytime I hear about a free agent, I'm always like, could they help New England? That's my bias as being a Revolution fan, though.
Well, so for me, yeah, I was thinking possibly a team like Philadelphia, where they're still trying to figure things out. Maybe you bring in a Mike Magee for the type of leadership that he can bring to the squad. That they're still quite young, and they also do have their veterans like Latu and Connor Casey.
Yeah.
But you're also seeing. You're seeing guys like Connor Casey as well.
True.
Not be able to go a full 90 anymore.
There's a side thought that I had here, not to jump in. You talk about having a guy that can come off the bench, and I know that this team made it fairly far in the playoffs, but I could see him maybe wearing the Rave green of Seattle, coming off the bench as a sub for Seattle.
I don't.
No?
One reason.
Why is that?
Their turf. It's terrible. He would not risk his knees on that turf for half a season.
Fair enough. Well, that makes I can see that argument.
A very good point brought up on the turf idea, because I was thinking the same thing. They've made a living of taking our old players that were decent or good back in the day, like Chad Barrett or Marco Papan, making us sit here and suffer watching them in the playoffs while we sulk at home. But actually, let me throw San Jose's name in the hat too. Actually,
Mike Magee, Chris Wondolowski pairing isn't the worst idea. Actually.
I don't know. They've thrown Quincy Americo out there, so
that's true. There's another team with a former Fire player.
What is with you guys? You guys just produce. They're like, yeah, you're decent. And then they go to another team. Oh, what a great player! Wow.
Seems to happen there all the time.
Yeah, no kidding. You made mention, too, of the turf, Simon. I think Vancouver's off the radar. I think Toronto's off the radar. I don't see him going to even... Well,
Vancouver, they have grass now, though.
Do they finally have grass? Okay.
I believe they do.
I don't think Vancouver doesn't have a prolific striker, but that's an argument for another time. Aside from that, though, I don't know. He doesn't fit into FC Dallas's system. He doesn't...
No way.
Houston... I don't know about Houston.
I don't know, maybe... I'm looking at Colorado. I think they have some young forwards, so they certainly wouldn't.
Colorado's a young team, yeah. I mean, would he be a sub for Columbus? I mean, is he from the Chicago area?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's from Elmhurst. If he goes to Columbus, I don't know if I could be able to ever say his name again.
And that's what I wonder, though, too, is if, hypothetically, if Columbus were to come to him saying, hey, look, we know you're from the general area, would you consider, because I'm sure at this point, you mentioned he just had a second kid. He doesn't want to be moving his family all over the United States. To move south by just a few hours to Columbus, maybe not the worst idea for him.
I just cannot see him do that. There has been a Chicago guy that played for Columbus, and that was Eric Gehrig. But he came over from Columbus. But I've never seen it go the other way, where a Chicago guy goes over there. I'm not sure if he would do that.
Well,
he seems to really love the area. So.
Yeah, I was going to say there was another big name that did go the opposite way, is Brian McBride.
Yeah.
Was with the Crew, then went over to England and came back and
played with the Fire
for a while. With the Fire.
Fair enough. Okay, so now that we've kind of tossed everything around as well, realistically, let's just briefly touch on it, because I know Simon has another question for you, Afshin. But realistically, though, do we think at the end of the day that Chicago is either going to A, offer him a new contract, or B, he does end up in LA, or what do we realistically think is going to happen with this Mike Magee deal?
In the end, I think Chicago throws him a really low offer. I don't think he's gonna accept it, and I think it goes back to LA.
Does LA want him though?
And that'll be that. What was that?
I said, does LA want him though? That's my question.
That is a good question. It depends how much they'd be willing to throw, and I'm guessing that'll also be a low offer. No matter where he goes, I don't think he's going to get much. But I think LA could find some sort of capacity to use him, especially if Zardes heads out, as you guys were saying.
True.
Right.
They might have a hole for a guy that could come in and play like 30 minutes off the bench.
Well, and also, Bruce Arena's been known to be loyal to his guys,
True.
and Mike Magee is still a Bruce Arena guy.
True.
He brought over Berhalter, brought over Santa when they were quite old for soccer players. So I could easily see Arena saying, "Yeah, come on over. We'll make it work." So moving on from Magee, I want to get your thoughts on the new Fire manager, Paunovic, if I'm saying that correctly.
Yes, good old Pano coming in. I like that question, actually, because when he was first announced, there were actually about 15 to 20 names that were floating around when we were talking about managerial searches, and everyone was wondering who's it going to be. The big name was Tab Ramos.
Yep, I heard that for a while.
U.S. development, and because Nelson Rodriguez did a lot with U.S. development, and they'd bring in Tab Ramos, and we'd have a bunch of U.S. youth players, and everyone got all giddy and excited. And then this was announced, Veljko Paunovic coming in, and there were a lot of confused people. They weren't too sure of how to take it, but he has maybe been, a week, 2 weeks now. He's going to actually get announced tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. at the Fire soccer facility in downtown. But he's really interacted a lot on social media with the fans, and they're loving it. He wouldn't be the first foreign coach to come in, because he did finish his career out in Philadelphia in 2011.
Yes.
I'm not sure many people know about that.
I actually did not.
I didn't know that either. Yeah, I think now that you say that, it sounds semi-familiar, but it's not something I would have been able to officially declare if you asked me originally.
Right, and that's something everyone's like, well, does he have familiarity with the MLS, or with MLS? Sorry, not the with MLS. And a lot of people were worried about that. And then you look at where he's played. He's played for Atletico Madrid, and then finished out in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
And you could look at some other foreign coaches that came in, like Oscar Pereira, and he had some sort of MLS knowledge beforehand. So people here are optimistic. I'm pretty optimistic. Like I said, he connects pretty well with the fans. So
which is important.
He could bring in a youth movement.
Right. Well, I think one of the positives is that he wasn't a huge manager of a big club. He wasn't just a very well-known name. He wasn't coaching the senior full national teams, but he coached the Serbian U20 team to a 2015 championship. He beating Brazil in the 2015 U20 World Cup final. I think that actually bodes well. That's a good European pickup because he's learned how he's got to develop players in the system. He gets the fact that there's more of a development angle in MLS than there is going out and splashing the cash and just bringing in people to fix your problems.
Yeah, exactly, which is something you definitely want to be careful about when it comes to something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys hit the nail on the head there, and that's the reason people were worried, because someone like Paunovic has never managed a club team, comes in, and then going back to the list that you gave, Baxter, on the players that the Fire picked up and declined, they currently have no one over 30 on their roster. All players on the current roster as of now are under 30, and the guys they picked up, the four names, were two homegrown guys, Harry Schiff and Patrick Duty, who are both under 25 and under.
Rightfully
and
so.
Bryce, who are draft picks. So.
Well, there's got to be a point where the Chicago Fire says, we got to rebuild. They've kept trying to patch holes over the past couple of years. Obviously, it hasn't been working. This year being probably the worst of many. Unfortunately, you guys seems to be a bit of an absentee owner out there as well. So there's got to be a point where, as a club, you just got to decide, you know what, let's suffer for a couple of years through the name of development. And I think this could be the first move in doing that.
Oh, absolutely. Every year we keep saying it's not going to get any worse, is it? And it continues to get worse. But like you're saying, we have an absentee owner. There isn't much that's going to, what we can do about it. He's not going to leave anytime soon. But the fact that they brought in Nelson Rodriguez, a guy who's very familiar with the youth here in the U.S., they've brought in Veljko Paunovic, who might even have some connections in Europe and could bring in some young guys over there. Between the two, you can bring in a bunch of youth players. It looks like they're going towards that direction, which also comes back to our Magee talk, which is why I ultimately don't think they're going to retain him. And so you're looking at a team that's going to work from youth, and they have a few good weapons up front, a few good young players. David Akam was a good pickup by the previous regime, hoping that he can continue. Jobin Jones was a good pickup by the previous regime, but they have a lot of work to be done on the center backs and the right back position.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, there's definitely a lot of other work that needs to happen out there. Well, before we let you go, Afshin, there have been two other announcements in Major League Soccer that have been announced. They haven't officially been announced yet just because, the season's still going on and off-season and all that hasn't been happening yet. But the two big things that I've heard rumors about and are a little surprised at, maybe you're maybe not as surprised, maybe Simon, I don't know what your thoughts are about it as well, but Lamar Nagel going to DC United has been a big talking point around MLS, but then also Chris Pontius from DC United being traded to the Philadelphia Union for allocation money. What do you think about those two moves for Nagel and Pontius, respectively? Simon, I'm curious to know your thoughts.
Yeah, I think Nagel's again one of those cases where he got played out. DC Chris Pontius, that is a bit of surprise. But I think he's going to a club that could really use him as well. So I actually don't think any of these deals are big surprises. Pontius more than Nagel, but yeah, I actually think it's a very good move by DC because they also need to. They're not in a total hole like the Fire are, but their inconsistent season was indicative of a team that also obviously is in flux and they need to figure things out. So getting more of that allocation money allows them to go out and shop around for a player.
Absolutely, yeah. We're chatting with Afshin Zahraee of Vavel USA, talking about the transfer season that is taking place in MLS right now. Afshin, what are your thoughts about Lamar Nagel and Chris Pontius as well?
I'm with Simon on the fact that the Lamar Nagel one was a little less surprising. I think Seattle has the players now to plug in where he can play, and the Chris Pontius deal is a very interesting one. I think it works out for Philadelphia pretty well too. Kind of talked about from their perspective, they really need a player of his ilk on their side, and I think in the end for DC it's going to work out money wise. I believe Pontius is a lot more expensive than Nagel. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah. So,
yes. Yep.
So I think for them it works out. They can kind of address some other positions and not lose too much quality. But I think the Union, got to talk about them a little bit. I think for them it's a good move. They're another side very similar to the guys I root for the Fire that are struggling to make it through. Had some issues with ownership, so hopefully they can make some good moves and their suffering fans can see some good soccer play too. So it's a good start for them. We'll see what can come out of that for them.
Absolutely, yeah.
As well.
I think this is going to be some interesting moves that are going to shake things up a little bit. I was a little surprised by Pontius getting traded since I know he's kind of a household name around DC United. I've also heard rumors as well that Perry Kitchen might be on his way out as well, another guy that's made his living in DC. I don't know where or any of that stuff yet, but I have heard rumors that he might not be with United next year, which maybe would benefit from them, but he's been such a strong presence in the midfield for them that I don't know if they'd be willing to let a player like him go.
Right. The one thing I'll say about Pontius is that he's been a bit injured here and there.
Yep.
And United's paying him a base salary of $365,000. I think that's also partly what he's falling victim to here. It's the Mike Magee thing,
True.
right? That he's been paid a lot of money, and unfortunately, due to injury, he hasn't been able to always live up to that money.
Exactly. Absolutely. All right.
Yeah. No. Going to the Perry Kitchen idea, I think that'd be a huge mistake for United. I think he's been on the U.S. radar for a long time now. I don't know if he's ever going to break through, but he's one of those fringe players that I think can really help them. So with Perry Kitchen, I would not like to. I mean, if I were DC, I would not like to.
Hey, another forward-thinking thing there as well with Perry Kitchen, to add to that, is every offseason we hear rumors of him possibly being sold to somebody as well.
Especially in Europe, too.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So if you're United, you got to be thinking a little bit business-wise as well of
what makes the most sense. Sometimes you got to sell a fan favorite. Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, Afshin, it's been a pleasure, sir. We've loved having you on the show. Where can people find your work on Vavel?
Well, thanks a lot, guys, for having me. So I wrote on. I'm on and off for Vavel here and there. So with my PhD work, I'm a little going under the radar. I haven't written too much lately, but they can find me on Twitter at Afshin Z951, and I usually post anything that I write on there or that I do. So, or my soccer thoughts, you can comment on those. And
hey, Ashburn,
like Carlos Vela. So
there you go.
With that one.
Can't let you go without asking your prediction for Sunday.
Oh yes. Okay. Simon, I'm rooting for Portland. Okay, let me preface this with I'm rooting for Portland. Obviously, I never would root for that yellow team. I'll never name them on the show. I think, a lot of it's a great matchup. MLS fans should be licking their chops.
Yes, I agree. Yes.
You got the Argentines that are working, they have the space, the connection, the tempo right behind the strikers, and Higuain for the yellow team and Diego Valeri for the Timbers. You've got each team has their destroyers. You got Johnny and Diego Chara. You got the wingers, Finley and Nagby. And then you have those the attackers, Adi, who has 18 goals. But I think the big difference maker, and I hate to say it, but I've seen him live, and he's an absolute beast, is Kai Kamara. I think he's going to make the difference. He's very tough to contain, especially with Ridgewell, I think, being questionable. I'm not sure if he's going to play or not, and if he does, he's going to be injured. Or partially injured. So I'm not sure if they can contain Kai Kamara. I'll be rooting for them, too. Speaking of which, very quick note before, I'm sorry, I'll wrap it up quick. But Kamara,
no problem.
Kamara's one of those guys that went to the championship after
That's true.
MLS, went to Middlesbrough, and then came back, and we see how that's reaped rewards. Kind of referring back to your Zarda.
Yeah,
that is true.
Well done.
I forgot about that.
Well done, Ashburn.
You might have to take our jobs. Jeez.
In the end, I think it's going to be 2. I was going to say 2-0 earlier, but 2-1 because these playoffs have been so exciting.
True.
To that yellow team, but go Timbers.
I love it.
All right. Well, Afshin, thank you so much for joining us, bud. We'll be chatting with you again in the future, and if something with Mike Magee happens, you'll be the first guy we call as well.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, and I'll keep listening and spread word about the show. Great show, guys.
Thanks, Afshin. Appreciate it. All right, we're going to jump to a break. When we come back, it's time to hand out some awards, Simon. Maybe you'll get one, too. I don't know, for Best Co-Host of the Year. We'll be back with more here on 2 Up Front right after this. Welcome back to another edition of 2 Up Front, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Baxter.
I'm Simon.
Indeed. Forgot my name for a moment. I'm so used to saying things and looking at other screens while I'm saying things, and then I'm like, and my name is...
I thought maybe you're just going to change it up, just for fun. After that great call with Ashburn, I thought maybe,
Why not? Change it up. Off script. I don't know. No, I'm not going to go off script. I wouldn't do that to you, Simon.
Script? We have a script?
I don't know.
Hey, while we're kind of bouncing all over the place and going a little bit off script, our good friend James Moran just happened to send me a great text.
Ah, James.
If you haven't heard, James has a pub down in South Milwaukee. His parents originally owned it. I think they still partial owners, but
yeah.
but whatever it may be, James has taken over. He has revamped this pub. It is a soccer pub down in South Milwaukee.
Oh, yeah.
Cool new logo, Moran's Pub. Anyways, he is having a sponsored match day down there. Guinness Match Day, December 5th, 2015. Games start as early as 6:45 a.m. That's the Stoke City, Manchester City game. A bunch of games at 9 o'clock. These are all Central Time, by the way.
Of course.
And the morning also has Chelsea taking on Bournemouth at 11:30 a.m. How about that Everton game where they oh my goodness, I don't even want to talk about it, but I already am.
You can talk
if
about
you
it.
didn't see it, Everton
it.
up 3-2. Look, it's tied 2-2. Everton puts in a goal in the 95th minute. So obviously it's stoppage time. Fans come storming the field, which is really what messed things up, because then the ref adds more time on, and Bournemouth comes back and ties it up 3-3 a couple of minutes later. But anyways, if you're in the area, stop by at Moran's Pub on December 5th. Tons of good stuff going on. It's the Guinness Match Day.
It's going to be an exciting time. You're not going to want to miss it with our good friends over at Moran's Pub and James Moran. Great fellow.
Absolutely.
Wonderful guy. All right, it's time to hand out a few awards, Simon. You have a few awards that you would like to bring to the table, and we will...
I thought it'd be fun, Baxter, just to throw out a couple of our inaugural 2 Up Front team awards.
Please.
So we only have 2 of them.
Okay.
Maybe next year we'll have more.
Maybe.
And I know this, I'm kind of throwing this at you. Didn't really talk about
Depending
this
on if
too
somebody
much.
gets relegated, we might have less. We'll see.
Relegated.
What's that?
Wait a second.
Is that a thing? No, just kidding.
All right, so Baxter, we want to give out 2 awards this year.
Sounds good.
Should we start positive or negative?
Let's go negative, and then we'll end on a
Okay.
positive note.
All right, sounds good.
It's
So,
always better to end on a positive note.
who is your 2 Up Front most underwhelming team this year?
Oh, gosh. Can I say New England for both? No, I'm not going to say New England. Although they were a little... I'm not going to be... Okay, I have 2 answers. One is New England.
Okay.
As a personal fan of the organization, I
sure.
feel that New England was horrifically underperforming this year, and they are lucky that the Eastern Conference sucks, and they were able to get into the playoffs. However, the real answer, that underperformed, that underwhelmed, that did not step up their game this year, and I know that they made a small run to the playoffs. They did make the playoffs, but as the Seattle Sounders. I was horrifically embarrassed of how terrible they played this year. I thought that they were someone that was going into the season incredibly hyped. Everyone thought they were going to run the tables. I get it. Injuries happen. I totally get it. But they still had plenty of guys on that team that could step up and do things at a high level. And here they barely made it into the playoffs as that 6th seed. As we mentioned, if they don't play the normal playoff format that they had it last year, Seattle's not in the playoffs. I just think that they were very, very underperforming and are deserving of that were underachieving this year.
It's funny. Everything you said is the exact same argument. The exact same argument for the team that I choose.
Oh.
But I'm going to jump to the Eastern Conference.
Fair enough.
Toronto FC.
Aha.
I loved it when you said the only reason they made the playoffs is because they ended up in the 6th seed, which was an added position this year. That's exactly what happened with TFC. They splashed so much money. Giovinco was wonderful, awesome.
Sure.
Arguably deserved the MVP. I would say Kai Kamara still deserved it because of what he's done with the whole team.
Agreed.
But nevertheless, Toronto FC is definitely my underwhelming team of the year. So that's the negative. Let's move to the positive. So the 2 up front, Baxter Colburn, most overwhelming team.
Most overwhelming.
So I mean that in a positive way.
In a positive way.
Right.
The most overwhelming. We do have somebody, Afshin, on Periscope. Way to stay with the show, Afshin. Says, loves the TFC pick. Who I also would go with is TFC eligible since they are underachieving every year. That is a very good point.
That is a good point.
Very
yes.
good point. They are, yeah.
So how about the most surprising team? Let's put it that way.
Most surprising team is the Montreal Impact for me.
Oh, okay.
I think that they made a positive impact on the soccer world.
But we got to get a sound effect button machine.
Need to. I want to share the award, though, with, and I know I keep sharing my awards, I'm sorry, but at least for me, I always felt like there was somebody else that was right there with them. I was really glad that Vancouver finally upped their game this year.
Okay.
I was very happy with that. And I was going into the season saying, I mentioned like one of our first episodes saying, I'm a closet Vancouver fan. I've always liked what the organization has done. I'd like to see them exceed expectations here and actually do well. And sure enough, they grabbed, a decent spot in the Western Conference playoffs. They grabbed the 2nd seed, which is not bad overall from them after finishing with 53 points, but a mixture of Montreal and Vancouver with the surprise teams of the year. More so Montreal, though, with how they surprised us with the CONCACAF Cup and then their late season surge because of Drogba as well.
Well, I'll tell you what, my pick was actually very easy for me to choose, and that was the New York Red Bulls. The reason for me that they're the most surprising team is the off-season controversy that they had. Fired Mike Magee. The fans were going crazy. Thierry Henry's gone. Who's the other big name that left? Why is his name escaping
Tim Cahill.
me? Tim Cahill left. It looked like this team was just going to be in total disarray.
Shambles, whole team.
Ali Curtis, the sporting director, comes out with his 565-page basic plan of how we're going to win the season. It just all sounded like a joke. Then they start the season with an incredibly impressive winning streak, and they finish the Supporter Shield winners. That, to me, that is so easily New York Red Bulls, my most surprising team of the year.
I will agree with you. And were you surprised that Jesse Marsch won MLS Coach of the Year?
Not at all.
No? Even with how good Montreal did this year, and even some of the other coaches that were up, FC Dallas's head coach was up for that award.
Oscar Pereira, and it was a tight race between him and Jesse Marsch. But no, I for all the reasons I just gave, nobody gave the Red Bulls any credit whatsoever. You know, if you look at FC Dallas, Blas Perez coming into the season was still playing hot. Obviously, Fabian Castillo has done it all this season as far as talk about consistency. You've got some great players on the defensive end as well. Is it Zach Lloyd? Name's escaping me. I believe it's Lloyd that's back there. Of course, he didn't play in that last game against Portland. But my point is that FC Dallas came into the season already expecting to be a good team.
True.
New York was expected to do basically not much with the youth that they have on the team. That's, to me, is what makes it so impressive, is the youth that they have. That's supposed to be a club that's almost rebuilding.
You're right.
But Jesse Marsch has a great system that he put into place, and the players all bought into it from day one. And as I said, now they're Supporter Shield winners. To take a club like that and make them number one in MLS, I don't care that it's the weaker Eastern Conference. That's still impressive. And then you finish the year being a goal away from getting to MLS Cup. Inches away from getting to MLS Cup.
That goal. Oh, my goodness. That almost goal.
Almost goal, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, you have to congratulate the Red Bulls for what they did this year. Fantastic job from them. Organization as a whole has made a lot of big steps moving forward. They overcame all the obstacles except for, 3 inches or whatever it was. But if you can do what everyone thought they weren't going to do and only be 3 inches away from going to a final, I think you're fine. That's a win in my book if I'm an organization standpoint. If I go to my end of my year meeting and say, you know what, guys, we did good.
Ali Curtis did say after the semifinal loss that for the first time in New York's history, they have a team that they know what to expect next year. That's huge.
That is. You normally can't say that, especially in soccer, too, with an ever-changing market and ever-changing influx of players.
Now, I know Bradley Wright Phillips says he does not want to leave the league, that he loves playing in MLS. He doesn't want to go back to England. I kind of wonder what would happen if a team from the Premier League did come by, or Holland. That's a league that Bradley Wright Phillips, I think, could totally excel in, an offensive-minded league like in the Eredivisie. But, let's say that some team from Eredivisie does come and say, you know what, we'll pay you $10 million for this guy.
Yeah.
Do they say no to that? I think he's too old where that kind of cash would be tossed out there.
True.
But anyway, it's just an interesting hypothetical to think about.
Absolutely. Well, some of the other awards that have been announced, I made mention of this 2 weeks ago. I didn't get your opinion on it, but Kyle Larin winning Rookie of the Year. What were your thoughts?
Well
about
deserved.
Him? Yeah, he did a fantastic job. 17 goals as a rookie.
And what's cool too is that he was a number one pick.
Yeah, it's about time a number one draft pick in any sport does something good.
Right.
So congratulations to Kyle Larin, one of the only bright spots of Orlando's season. I mean, they were a game or two out of the playoffs, so not bad for an expansion team. But one thing I do want to make a good mention about, though, and we'll get to the MLS Best 11 in just a moment, is you mentioned briefly earlier in the show about Sebastian Giovinco. He was named the Landon Donovan. I still don't understand why they call it the Landon Donovan MLS Trophy. I feel like how many people on Twitter today like Landon Donovan won the MVP award? It's like, no, he didn't win the MVP award. They named it after him to make him. I think they should have been like the BMW, the Audi, the something. Like, don't name it after a player that's still alive and still very much that could still play the game.
Make sure they're dead first, so they can't appreciate the honor.
Or at least old. Like Landon Donovan could still go out there and play better than most people in MLS.
Look, it's because of the sacrifice that he made.
No, I
that's
know.
huge.
But from a marketing perspective, think about it next time. Come on.
I'll let you have this rant.
Thank you. I'm just saying. I feel like Landon Donovan. I love Landon Donovan. Don't take it away, but the first year he's out of the league to name it the MVP award after him. I'm like, come on.
Hey, maybe the league really wanted to make him stay retired, so that's their way of doing it.
What if Landon Donovan would have won the Landon Donovan MVP award? What if he comes back now? He's like, I want to win my own award. Like, does he get his own little award since his name is on the trophy?
That would be something. Landon Donovan with the Landon Donovan MVP trophy.
Would he be holding himself? Like I don't know how he would do it. Like a statue of himself he's holding? I know it's not an actual statue of him. That'd be funny if it was. But I think it's like a little glass plaque thing. I don't know. Either way, Giovinco won the MVP award. Do you like it?
Giovinco had a record-breaking season.
He did.
I get that. I totally get that. Kai Kamara is going to the MLS Cup final.
True.
And he was extremely valuable in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
What did Toronto FC do in the playoffs?
They crashed and burned hard.
They did. So for me, that's got to be the MVP award is one of the lone awards that I think you have to consider the full season. When I say full season, I mean all the way through the playoffs, all the way through the final. Kai Kamara did enough to earn that award.
Agreed. I absolutely agree. And no offense to Benny Feldhopper, and I think they were just kind of scrapping for a third guy, but he was never going to be in this conversation.
No, he wasn't.
He never was. I mean, great for him to at least get the nomination. You know, you can put that on your soccer resume saying, I was nominated for the MVP award. That's great. No business. No business. It was always between Giovinco and Kamara. And if you want to look at if Toronto had even gone even another round farther, not got shut out by Montreal in the first round of the knockout stage, maybe we talk about it a little bit more. But Sebastian Giovinco was shut out by Montreal in the last game of the season that got Montreal into the playoffs, and also got shut out in that first round of the playoffs as well. And that's not something you want from your top player.
And we're not going to base this just off of goals, and that's my whole point. But you do look at they both scored 22 goals, and we've made this argument before, is that Giovinco's goals tend to come in spurts, where Kamara's were consistent throughout the season.
And I always judge it based off of this, too, when I hear MVP awards in other sports as well, too. If you take away that one player, say he never exists on the team that year, does that team still, or are they still where they are at that point? If Kai Kamara is not on Columbus this year, or if he gets hurt week one?
Well, I'll tell you what, Baxter, that's the one argument where I would have to say Toronto FC is much worse off without Giovinco than Columbus is
100%.
without Kamara.
I will take a Kamara-less Columbus Crew over a Giovinco-less TFC any day of the year. Any day.
But then again, you look at, for the money they splashed at Giovinco, deservedly so,
of course.
By the way.
He actually made them say, hey, we made a smart purchase.
Right,
not like what Michael Bradley's done, not like what Josie Altidor's done. You know? It's just one of those things where 2 out of the 3 people they threw a ton of money at never panned out. No offense to Bradley. I know he's been going through stuff, but Josie Altidor, I don't want to even get into it right now.
No, right. So there is that argument you can make for saying, look, Giovinco is more valuable to his club. But see, for me, that's when I say, okay, so he's MVP of his club.
Yeah, he's the team MVP. That's great. They give that award out within each club, hands out their own team MVP. That's fantastic. But he's not the league MVP. He's not the most valuable player to the entire league. Kai Kamara does so much, not only for the Columbus Crew on and off the field, but for the league as a whole as well. I mean, Kai Kamara was featured on CNN today, and he wasn't even the MVP award. He was still on CNN, though, like talking about MLS Cup.
I didn't realize that.
Promoting that. He was all over, national media.
I'll be honest with you. I think there would have been nothing wrong with doing what the NFL has done a few times and name them co-MVPs, because to me they actually both deserve it.
I agree.
And there's different arguments for why they both do, but they both do.
Do you think it's because he was the atomic ant, because he's this big media craze in MLS? Kind of like if
I think that plays into it.
Yeah.
I think that plays into it.
But why take away from Kai Kamara, though? He's the people's player. Everybody loves Kai Kamara. He's this little guy that came from Sierra Leone that has overcome numerous adversities and civil wars, and now is exceeding at one of the highest levels you can in professional sports.
Well, and maybe that's part of it, is the league already knows that he's loved.
That's true.
I mean, Giovinco's loved for a different reason, but yeah, I think the name power certainly plays a bit of a role.
Agreed. I absolutely agree. All right, well, I want to take a look at the MLS Best 11. The 2015 MLS Best 11 has been announced, and maybe some surprises depending on who you are. We'll start with the goalkeeper and work our way up the front of the formation. The goalkeeper, Luis Robles, no surprise in my
No surprise. I'm the only thing I'm surprised about is he still hasn't been given that call-up to the national team.
Well, Jurgen Klinsmann doesn't like
Although, did he finally get called up and just didn't make the final? I think he got called into a camp.
I think he did get called to camp at least, yeah. But you look at it, though, Luis Robles played every single minute of every single game for the third consecutive season. He even set a career high with 18 wins this season as well. But the funny part about this, Simon, this is his first best 11 selection.
Really?
First one in his career.
Well, I'm sure Nick Ramondo's probably been chosen over him. I think Donovan Ricketts when he was a hot keeper.
I think Bill Hamid's got one to his name too.
I think he may as well.
Robles was always that one guy that was always just like, oh, this guy's really good. Oh, and Luis Robles is right there also, but you never got that Luis Robles insert. So I'm really glad Robles finally got some accolades to his name. Now, does he get that call-up, though, to the U.S. Men's National Team sooner rather than later? Maybe, hopefully, possibly.
He did get capped, by the way, in 2009 in a Gold Cup game against Haiti.
Oh, that's probably why he got capped against Haiti. So
there you go.
Yeah, all right. That's good to know. The three defenders, all of them were their first ever best 11 selections. You have Laurent Simon for the Montreal Impact, very deservingly well there. Matt Hedges from FC Dallas, and Kendall Watson. So 2 out of the 3 players hailing from the Great White North.
Yeah, Matt Hedges, he's powerful. He's one of those backs that you need to have on your. Anybody would love to have him on a team.
100%.
He's so strong with his. He sees he's got great vision. Is what I'm trying to say. Unlike my talking, he can actually do something really well. I am a little surprised that Miazga's not on there though.
Mm-hmm. You had made mention of him a few weeks ago. I remember you talking about him as well, Matt Miazga, but. Kendall Watson did a great job of anchoring Vancouver, getting them into the playoffs and being a solid back for them. He's a Costa Rican. He's played a ton of games for them. He scored 2 goals this year as well for Vancouver, proving his worth. He was also a finalist for Defender of the Year as well. But overall, though, Simon was a big impact as well for Montreal when they were making their big CONCACAF run as well, and even just that surge towards the end of the year. So he's also a Belgian national team guy as well.
I didn't realize that. Is he really?
He is,
wow.
Yes. He is one of the regular starters for the Belgian national team.
Wow.
So, the more you know. The midfielders. Now, I don't know exactly how I feel about one of the midfielders, and I could maybe make an argument against it or for it, but Ethan Finlay, Dax McCarty, Benny Feilhaber, and Fabian Castillo are the 4 best 11. I respect Dax McCarty a lot. I really do. But not once in the recent history have I seen things where Dax McCarty has stuck out to me as being deserving of one of the best midfielders in Major League Soccer. I think he's a household name. I think he is a crucial part of what holds New York together. But I don't see him doing a lot on the field. Maybe I haven't watched enough Red Bull games.
Right.
But I haven't seen him do enough things where I'm like, one of the best top 4 midfielders in Major League Soccer.
I got to disagree with you, Baxter. I think he is one of the best midfielders in the league. Again, he's great organizational skills. Anytime I see him play, he gets the ball. He knows where he's putting it. He's very successful with his passing. Reads the field well. Again, the only thing I'm surprised about is that Klinsmann, once again, has not called this guy up. Klinsmann's talking about wanting a youth movement. And granted, McCarthy now is, I believe he's 28.
He is.
That's still, that's prime.
It is.
Klinsmann keeps calling Kyle Beckerman. You want a good replacement? Dax McCarty.
Perfect guy to come in and do it. And like I said, maybe I just haven't watched enough Red Bull games to get an accurate judge about it. But the games I have watched, McCarty's 9 times out of 10 shutdown, doesn't do a lot with the movement with the ball. Off the ball, he's a very good runner, but it could have just been the sampling of games I've seen.
Who would you put in place of him?
See, that's the hard part about it, is because last year it was Lee Win. It was a clear selection for Lee Win. Aside from that, though, this year. I almost would have maybe added a 4th defender in terms of instead of a 4th midfielder, because Ethan Finlay, Feilhaber, and Castillo, 100%. All 3 of those guys played their hearts out this year. Not that Dax McCarty doesn't have heart, but maybe it's because I'm more of a stat-driven, more performance with goals and assists type of guy, just because of how I am. Where you see that with Finlay and Feilhaber and Castillo, and McCarty not so much. So maybe that might be my reasoning behind it more so than anything. But I'm still, if I had to go with this group of 4 guys as my starting 4 midfielders, I'd be very content with that.
Out of those 4, who would be your midfielder MVP?
My midfielder MVP? Boy.
I know who I'd pick in a heartbeat.
I'd probably have to go with Ethan Finley.
Oh, okay.
I was going Castillo?
Castillo.
Yeah. It's a tie for Finley and Castillo with me. I think Ethan Finley's ceiling is higher than Castillo. I think Finley adds a different dynamic. Castillo's got the speed where Finley has the technicality and the pinpoint accuracy.
See, I think Castillo's just an exciting player to watch. He's almost a mini version of a Cristiano Ronaldo. I mean, there's a reason the Colombian national team called him up.
True.
And there are rumors that he won't be in the league next year because he'll be getting sold. So we'll see. But yeah, if I had to pick one player out of there on a fantasy team, I'm taking Castillo.
Fair enough. All right, then the 3 forwards, the 2 MVP candidates, Sebastian Giovinco, Kai Kamara, and Robbie Keane as well, finding his 4th straight best 11 selection. So congratulations to Robbie on that one.
Can't argue with any of those picks there.
No, I agree with you on that one. All 3 of those guys did a lot of great things for their teams this year. And we already talked about Giovinco and Kamara in depth, and Robbie Keane has just been a consistent and dominant force in Major League Soccer.
Sorry about that bump there. Wasn't any commenting on your...
Just like, like, okay, I can just press the mute button if you want me to stop talking. Anyway, we're going to go to a break. When we come back, we're going to take a little bit of a review on what all took place in the MLS finals in terms of the conference side of things, and then we will preview the MLS Cup and then wrap things up with our I Believe segments. We'll be back with more on 2 Up Front right after this. Welcome back to another edition of 2 Up Front, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Baxter Colburn.
And this is Simon Provan.
See, I kept it normal that time,
you did,
Simon.
You did.
Just wanted to...
I was trying to think of something witty to say, and I thought, you know what? If people just tune in now, they'll have no idea what that was in relation to. So
True. That was a smart move by you. Well done. Yeah. Way to step up and be a contributor there and make the show popular and do things and stuff. I don't know. I was running out of words and accolades and things. Anyway, a lot of good things to get to here on the rest of the show. One of the things we want to do, though, is by going back in time and reviewing the conference championships for both the Western and Eastern sides of it in Major League Soccer. Simon, what can you really say about these 2 series? They were hard-fought. They were exciting. Maybe the Red Bulls Columbus wasn't as exciting.
The second game wasn't as exciting.
No, and I was a little surprised by that. I thought New York kind of looked kind of blasé about the game. They're like, meh, we're just going to come out and shoot
It was
around.
odd. They're at home. They're at Red Bull Arena. And, yeah, they were almost looked like letting Columbus just...
I expected better.
I don't know if they were doing the Rocky thing, where... Rocky 4, where he was boxing against the Russian, and he let the Russian just beat him up, and then finally at the end, he decided to go at him. No. I don't know if that was the Red Bulls' plan. Maybe that's what they watched.
The 93rd minute's a little late.
A little late, right.
So, yes, technically the Red Bulls won, so they can add to their wins in the playoffs.
Right.
But at the end of the day, they were down. They lose 2-1 on aggregate to the Columbus Crew after Columbus had 2 goals in that opening game. good win overall by the Columbus Crew, rightfully deserved. But a bit of an upset, is it technically?
I would. Well, I mean, you get the Supporter Shield winner.
True.
Goes down, so you'd always have to consider
from
that
a seeding
upset.
perspective also.
Right. But no, Columbus, I mean, come on, the first game, the first leg, they score within the first 9 seconds.
A new MLS playoff record.
Right. That kind of set the tone for the rest of the series.
I agree. No, I think that the fact that they were to jump out that fast and score, I got the notification on my phone. I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, this is the playoffs. And against Luis Robles. I'm like, they scored after 9 seconds.
You know, it's funny. I was watching the game. I tuned in, and then I went to click on my Twitter app on my phone, and I looked up just at the last second to see the goals.
Oh, goal.
I actually had to go back a little bit to see if I had missed the call the goal being called off.
Yeah.
But no, it was
a very well-designed play, and it worked out perfectly for him. So, I mean, great job by Columbus being able to execute that. But ultimately, Columbus advancing to MLS Cup 2015 after a 2-1 aggregate win. You did mention it, though, in terms of what New York was doing. They outshot Columbus in this second leg game 17-9. 6 of their 17 shots were on target, where 5 of Columbus's were on target.
Honestly, I'm not joking. I would have to guess about 5 to 6 to maybe 7 of those shots on goal or shots came in the last 3 or 4 minutes.
I would agree with you. Yeah, I was watching a little bit of the last part of that game, and I'm like, good Lord, they were just, I mean, I think New York finally realized that, like, if we don't score, we're going to lose. Well, maybe we should start trying. And then they did. And they got that late goal, which was great, but it was too little too late.
And, it's so easy for us to sit here and say, well, New York was playing really boring soccer. They weren't attacking. We got to give some credit to the Crew for having a game plan for both games. For Berhalter having a great game plan and for his players executing it, that they didn't allow New York until those final few minutes to actually get a sniff at goal.
True. I mean, that was a fantastic play. If you can go 93 minutes without conceding a goal and still win the game, but after you concede that goal, I mean, that's still a victory for Columbus. Sure, yes, they scored a late goal, but as you mentioned to me off the air, as we were talking earlier today, you saw some weaknesses in the Columbus defense by that late goal.
I did. Columbus, their defense, so I'm going to jump a little bit ahead of what we're planning on here, going off script now. Columbus defense plays really compact and organized soccer. But I'll tell you what, we see when those crosses come in, and if that box is packed with the opposing team, we see their defense come a bit undone. And that's how New York was able to score their first goal. And it's also how they were almost able to score that second goal.
It's true. Yeah, I mean, you look at it, I mean, this is a team that had Michael Parkhurst and Waylon Francis on the field. They even brought in 2 defenders towards the end of the game. They brought in Tyson Wall and Chris Klute. So they had 5 defenders on the field for the latter half of the ball game, and they still conceded that late goal.
Well, and you almost wonder if, sometimes it's like when you put too much garlic in a dish and you ruin it.
There's never too much garlic.
All right, well, too much garlic salt. How
there
about
you go.
that?
That's better. I was like, I'm Italian. There's no such thing as too much garlic.
So that also could have been the case there, where it actually was a poor sub and having too many players back there. You have to think about, hey, these 4 that are playing in the back have been doing a wonderful job. Not freaking out at all, staying organized, as I said, staying compact, winning those balls. Every single ball that was coming in the box, Columbus was winning. They were denying New York everything.
Yeah. Then
you throw that 5th guy in there. It can mess things up where now you're trying to figure out, doing a bit man-to-man, doing a bit zone, not to sound too NFL-ish here. But that does affect that.
It does. It honestly does. I mean, I thought that Columbus controlled pace for most the entire game. I mean, they had a pretty good game overall, although they did trail in possession of the ball, rightfully so, because New York was trying to bombard that goal for Columbus towards the end of the game. Steve Clark had to make 6 saves, so he had to come up a few different times.
He sure
did. Some
did.
Big plays. Luis Robles had 5 saves, so both goalkeepers called into action.
And Robles had a couple of amazing saves in that game.
He's kind of known for that, I feel like. It was good for him to be able to step up, proving why he was an MLS Best 11. So Columbus will represent the Eastern Conference in Major League Soccer's championship game this coming Sunday. On the other side of that, they take on a team that wears not rave green, but more of a forest green. And that is the Portland Timbers. So I'm sure you are just thrilled and tickled pink, Simon, for many reasons because of your Portland Timbers getting to the final. But talk about the progression through the 2 legs against FC Dallas.
At home against Dallas, I'm sorry. They were they were at home.
Mm-hmm.
Portland was at home. Talk about again a almost perfectly executed game. They end up winning 2-1, so they did allow that away goal. But I'll tell you what, Caleb Porter, for as much crap as I have given him,
you give him a lot of crap. Let's be honest.
He finally figured out that if you move.
Darlington
Nagbe, thank you. Darlington Nagbe into the middle of the midfield, still a little bit on the right. That opens things up. He likes to play in the middle. He doesn't like to play on the outside. He feels a lot more confident in the middle. And that allows Adi then to play a true number 9, getting released. Balls into space, he finds them, he takes shots, and he scores.
He looked fantastic in he's looked great in this entire playoff series.
And I think the best thing that Portland has done, the best thing that they've done, is kept wearing that third kit.
Keep wearing it. It's working. Although I think they are wearing their official home jersey, though, for MLS Cup.
Are they?
They are. Both teams are wearing their official home jerseys.
Oh, see, that's disappointing for me because they've been doing well wearing those third kits. They've been on a scorching run.
You're not superstitious, Simon, are you? When it comes to sports and soccer and your beloved
I think
Timbers?
It affects the way you play. That's all I'm saying. It affects the way you play. You feel good. I had a coach when I was younger that always said, you feel good, you play good.
Of course.
You feel good, you play good. They feel good in these jerseys. They've been playing good.
It's a nice Adidas jersey. They all feel nice.
Well, here, let's get back to the actual games here. So then they go into Dallas. Portland goes into Dallas.
Yep.
They made it an exciting game. I'll tell you that.
Oh, my goodness.
The aggregate got to be so they won at home. Sorry, I said 2-1, 3-1.
Yep.
Then they go into Dallas, they score again, and you're thinking, all right, they've got this.
Yeah,
it's
4-1.
4-1.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, Dallas decides to turn on the heat. Portland was playing a great game. They're keeping Castile contained. They're keeping Dallas's other forwards contained. But then Blas Perez comes in and he does what he does best: starts scoring goals.
He does. Blas Perez with a goal. Mario Diaz with assists on both of the goals to Hollingshead and Perez as well. Mario Diaz, one of those dominant young midfielders that does not get a lot of publicity, but those passes for both of those goals were fantastic.
And it's funny because the Dallas fans actually seemed a little bit upset when Hollingshead was taken off since he was the goal scorer, but Blas Perez came in and he really had a dominant statement goal to bring the aggregate now 4-3. But then Milano, I would say goal to the playoffs, not because he struck it in a beautiful way that was upper 90. He goes all the way down, basically down to the keeper. He's on the right side of the goal. Decides to do a little Jedi mind trick on Gonzalez, who's been playing wonderfully since he's been in the Dallas goal.
Yep.
Hits it with the outside of his foot, and it just trinkles into goal and finishes off the aggregate to be 5-3.
It was a fantastic
So 2-2 draw in Dallas, but Portland
5-3 going through on aggregate.
So here's the great thing, Baxter, is you have two teams that have gelled at the right time. They've peaked at the right time.
Exactly.
Here's the deal. I think that Portland and Columbus actually play very similar games.
I would agree with you on that.
You hear so many time pundits talk about that. So can I move into a little preview here? So you hear pundits a lot of times say, this game's going to be won in midfield. I think for this game, it's not about the midfield. It's about the defense and it's about the wing play.
Okay.
So I really feel that this game is going to go one of two ways, and there's no middle with this statement either.
Sure.
It's going to be either a barnstorming, goal-scoring game, or it's going to be almost no goals. In the same way, it's going to be an extremely exciting game, or it's going to be an extremely boring game. And there's no in between.
I have this irking feeling that I love high-action finals. I love it. Whether it's soccer, football, basketball, anything, I love a final that gives people what they want. I hate 1-0 finals. I hate 14.
I'm okay with 1-0 as long as it's
if you
fought.
Win, you win. But if I'm an unbiased, just media head watching this game and I have no ties to either team, I want a good game. I want a good game that I can talk about, on a show, write about as a journalist, etc. And if it's a 1-0 game or if it's a 0-0 game that we've seen before that goes to overtime and penalty kicks, it's like, oh my gosh, come on. Like for me at least, I would love a 3-2 game, a 4-3 game. I would love it, that barn burner style of game where Kai Kamara and Adi just go back and forth, exchanging goals, and then somebody snatches that late, 90 whatever second or third game winning goal, and then it's over.
Well, and that goes back to my point here. So what I'm saying is, I think this game, as stupid as this may sound, this game is going to be won in the final thirds. And I'm not just talking offensively. I'm talking about both these teams have been playing well defensively. Both of them play compact, organized in the back. I think Portland takes a few more chances in the back. They send their guys forward a little bit more. It's going to be one. So in the final third, but also on the wing play. We talked about Nagbe loves being in the middle, but he loves to dish that ball out to the sides.
He got sent out wide in this last game I saw. His starting a lineup against FC Dallas in the second leg was out wide.
He was starting wide, but if you watch that whole game, he kept drifting in the middle, and that's where he would play balls through.
Yes.
So I obviously both these teams have strong midfields.
Yep.
I think they're pretty even there. Actually, I think they're pretty even all around.
I agree.
Which is why I think the keys to this game is who's going to own the wings and who's going to own who's going to stay most organized in the back.
How big of a game does the goalkeeper, does Steve Clark need to have for Columbus?
Huge. With the way Adi's on fire right now, huge. But Kawarse also has to be huge.
That's true. Who do you trust more as a goalkeeper?
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I actually trust Kawarse more. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Portland fan.
Sure, I understand that.
The way he's been playing, eyes on the ball. Those goals against Dallas were not his fault at all.
I agree.
Now, the big concern Portland has, and Ashfin had brought this up, was Liam Ridgewell.
Yeah, that was my next question.
Does he play? I don't know. I think maybe he gets the start. Well, and that's the thing, too. I mean, Ridgewell and Borchers, the way they've played in the back together, rough start of the season, but, man, they have got it figured out back there.
I agree.
At the same time, Paparazzo came in for Ridgewell in that last game against Dallas. True. If there's one game to really test that guy, it's against an FC Dallas. And Paparazzo did fantastic.
That is true. Now, I'll ask you this, and I hope it doesn't come down to this, but if it comes down to penalty kicks, who's your guy for Portland that you want to kick that game winning? Who do you trust the most to seal the game away?
It's so easy to say Valeri, but he missed his last one in that Sporting Kansas City crazy shootout.
I almost wonder if you want a defender to take it because the defenders have just burn it as hard as they can, and it's not as much of a Jedi mind trick game like the midfielders and forwards try to play. I mean, Adi's obviously got a pure shot. If Will Johnson's on the field, which he didn't play at all in the second leg, maybe they're holding him out trying to... Well, that's another question I'll get to in a moment is Will Johnson, but what do you... I don't know who I would trust the most. If I'm Columbus, it's Kai Kamara, Ethan Finley right after each other.
Sure,
those two guys are as sure as it comes when it comes to penalty kicks. But for Portland, if you are down to your last penalty kick and you're saying, hey, XYZ, it's your turn. You make it, we win.
So you're saying I have to make a decision.
You have to, yes.
I have no choice.
I would
here.
like you to make a decision. That would make me happy.
All right, let me see. Now this is out of the blue here. So I'm actually going to look at the players just to remind myself
of course,
who I'd want to see there. You know what? I don't mean this to come out of left field, but it is a defender.
Okay.
Villafana is who I'd love to see in there.
Oh, okay. Why is that?
I got to base it all off of that shootout with Sporting Kansas City. When he came up to take that kick, it was like he was breathing air. That was it. There was no nerves whatsoever with him.
And that's the guy you want.
And he was solid. Yeah.
That's the guy you want. Okay. I just was curious because so many times we've seen so many MLS Cup finals end in penalty kicks. And it comes down to that key miss. I mean, I don't want to rub salt in the wound for Lavelle Palmer there for RSL when he missed his penalty kick off the crossbar. But, so many different times we've seen finals come down to that aspect of it. So,
how about, can you give me a player for Columbus? Do you know Columbus well enough?
That I trust for the penalty kick?
Yeah.
Kai Kamara.
Oh, yeah.
Kai
I'm
Kamara,
sorry. You already said that.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Kai Kamara, and then Ethan Finley is the
right.
second guy right after that. Higuain would be my third.
Okay.
So those three guys. Will Trapp would be another one guy that I would want to take a penalty kick.
Don't get me wrong. I still want Valeri in there.
Of course.
He missed that one, but
Justin Marinum
usually
as well
he's on the money.
So that would be who my five would be. So,
all right. So I've mentioned two so far, right? Villafana, Valeri.
Yes. Yep.
Obviously, ID would be in there, so that's three.
Jack
I'd want
Dewsbury?
Chara would be in there.
That's four.
If Dewsbury starts and he's in there, yes. The other person is Nagbe, for sure.
What about Nat?
What about who?
Borchers? Nat Borchers?
Oh, Nat Borchers. I'm not sure about a PK. I mean, he's been scoring goals, but they've been off his head.
True. I don't think he can head a penalty kick.
Yeah,
not legal.
Right. Huh. Or they've been balls that have been just bouncing around the box and he gets a foot on it.
Randomly swings at it.
Yeah.
Do you go, and this is just totally off the cuff here, just as a thought. When you approach a penalty kick situation, do you want just forwards or just your top goal scorers? I understand that penalty kicks are a totally different ballgame than the run of play.
No, I think it's something you have to work on in practice, especially when you're approaching a final. You got to work on it every day, and you base who's taking those kicks based on that week of practices.
Yep. That's true. You have to run multiple scenarios because your starting 11 is not going to be your penalty kick takers. You're not going to be able to choose from those same 11 guys.
Right. You're going to make subs. Right?
Yeah, you got to work through those 14, 15 guys.
And that's where you take that risk as a manager is if it looks like it's going into extra time, you keep your strong guys in there. But if it looks like for sure it's going to go into penalties, that's where you take a risk and maybe you make a sub for the upcoming shootout and not necessarily for the last 3 or 4 minutes of the game.
Agreed.
And that's why it's a risk, because there's still 3 to 4 minutes to be played.
Exactly. You never know what could happen. All right. Well, it's come to that point, Simon. I need a prediction from you.
All right. By the way.
Yeah. Fun little fact.
Fun little fact. I will be there.
You will.
On Sunday.
You will. I've never been so jealous in my life. I'll be on an airplane back from Jacksonville. So
when I looked at... obviously, Portland would be the only team that could not host, so that means they were traveling.
Yes.
So that means they would either be in New York. The final would be in New York, Dallas, or Columbus.
Yep.
So when I saw that Columbus was already pre-selling MLS Cup tickets before the second legs were played, I thought, I'm going to get myself a seat.
Why not?
So I did. So I'll be traveling down to Columbus.
Pictures, lots of pictures on our Facebook page.
Yes, I'll be taking pictures. I'm going to be paying attention to most of the game. I'm purposely not sitting with the Timbers Army, not because I don't love you guys, but simply because I just want to be there and just take it all in. I want to watch the Army do their thing. I want to watch the Columbus fans do their thing. Most importantly,
the tifos are.
Right. Most importantly, I just want to sit there and take in this game. Prediction.
It's a unique experience. It really is.
It is. I mean, this may be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for me.
True.
So I'm making that 7-hour drive on Saturday, staying overnight in a hotel, watching the game on Sunday, and driving 7 hours back.
And going to class and doing teaching.
That's right. That's
Woo,
right.
Baby. Well done.
So I'm honestly not trying to not give you a prediction because my heart says Portland.
Of course.
But I got to be honest with you.
My heart said New England last year, and look where that got me.
But my brain is saying Columbus is going to win this thing.
Interesting. Okay.
I actually think it's going to be a low-scoring affair. I think it's going to go to extra time, though.
Of course it will. I understand that.
Extra time, and I'm going 2-1.
2-1 Columbus.
No.
Oh?
I'm going to go 3-2 Columbus.
3-2 Columbus.
I want to see more goals. So.
Okay. Fair enough.
But like Ashvin, I'm cheering for Portland.
Of course. And my heart is set with Portland as well. As much as I respect Columbus and as a Eastern Conference supporter of the Revolution, I would love, Columbus to win. But my heart is also telling me that Portland is going to win this game. And I feel like Portland, as I mentioned to you off air, is going to win this game by a score of 3-1. If all the big players show up, and I understand that's such a cliche statement, well, if all the right guys show up, they'll win the game. Well, yes, but we've seen all the right guys show up before, and it's still not work out for them. But I honestly feel that if Valeri, Chara, Nagbe, and Addy, and even the defense starts to play solidly well, this is going to be a Portland team that Columbus isn't going to know what to do with.
I love that point, and I will say I think Portland is playing the best soccer right now.
I agree.
And they're the hottest team right now.
I agree.
And part of this is I feel like when these big games come up and I make a pick, I'm always wrong. So
you got to go reverse Jedi mind trick psychology.
That's right. But I'm not superstitious.
Just call a draw. Just take a draw, Simon. It always works out for you. That's the easy get out of this. You can't in this game. Unfortunately, the ref will be like, sorry, Simon, I can't help you on that one. I don't even know what they would do. It'd be like, we're done. It's a draw. I'd be like, what? That's not how it works. But
is this a baseball all-star game? What's
going
on?
We're done. We're calling it. So
no more goalkeepers to use.
No more goalkeepers. Yeah, pull the goalies. We're going hockey style. No goalies. Only midfield shots.
Indoor soccer, sixth attacker style.
Perfect. I love it. So you heard it here first. Simon has the Columbus Crew
Yes.
winning 3-2 in extra time. I have the Portland Timbers winning 3-1
in
regulation.
play.
Regulation.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Straight
I
regulation.
hope you're right, Baxter.
Let us know your predictions. Find us on Twitter at 2UpFrontSoccer, at Baxter Colburn, at Simon Provan. Let us know your thoughts and your predictions by letting us know on Twitter as well. We're going to go to a break, wrap things up, and do I Believe when we come back to close out another edition of 2 Up Front. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to another edition of 2 Up Front, presented by Sports Radio America. I am Baxter.
And I'm a Portland Timbers fan.
Hey, welcome. Welcome to the show. What's your real name, though?
This is Simon
Oh,
Provan.
Simon.
Yes.
Okay. I could have come in. I'm a Revolution fan, but, that probably wouldn't get me very far nowadays. Oh, New England. One day, Simon, we will win. They will win.
I don't know. Five trips at least.
We're consistent, if nothing else. You can't blame us for not being consistent when it comes to MLS Cup finals.
I do like the fact that the Buffalo Bills are red, white, and blue, and the Revolution are red, white, and blue, and they've got offers on their championship games.
There's a lot of, this is an awful joke, but there's a lot of New England Revolution fans in Africa. Because that's where they send the championship T-shirts to refugees and, third world countries down there. So they love the Bills and they love the Revolution down there in Africa. It's an awful joke. I'm sorry, but it's also true at the same time. But anyway, we've come to the latter half of the show, which we've had a great show so far, to our favorite segment of the show.
I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win.
It's we like to think we believe what we know we're talking about segment. No, it's I Believe. It's where we each make a comment about something in the soccer world. Hypothetically, I believe. I always love using Sepp Blatter. I believe Sepp Blatter will be sent to jail and convicted of all his crimes. I don't know.
I believe that too.
I hope, I pray that that's what happens. But realistically, Simon, you are the Portland Timbers fan. I don't know why that matters, but you get to go first.
Okay, I'm going to make this 2. Because I got
not in the rules.
I know, but
where is that in the rules?
Wait, you picked 2 teams for the
that's
2 Up Front
irrelevant.
awards.
Completely irrelevant. I don't know what you want from me.
All right,
sorry. Go ahead.
All right. No, first of all, because
you threw your pretzel
I
at
did
me?
throw. No, I just threw
me.
the pretzels down on the table.
You threw them angrily in my direction. Why are you throwing pretzels at me?
Well,
what have I ever done to you? I gave you those
You're
pretzels.
yelling at me right now.
I'm not yelling. Are you yelling? Anyway.
This isn't about me. This is about you.
I don't know what you want from me.
I just want to have 2 I Believes
fine,
today.
Okay, fine.
Because the first one I'm coming up with is not really like, awe-shattering, anything. I think I believe.
There you go.
Use
the words.
I believe the MLS Cup final we're about to see, it will go down as the most exciting final that we have seen.
Interesting. Okay.
And number 2 came out just a couple days ago. Actually, it was yesterday. Football Association Chairman Greg Dyke. So this is FA in Britain here in England.
Course.
And by the way, this was in the Scotland Herald.
Oh.
I just wanted to say that.
The FA and the Scotland Herald. I love it. What did the Scottish? Now you got to do it in.
I got to do the whole thing.
You got to do it.
All right. So Greg Dyke comes out and says that the worst day in FIFA's history was the moment that Russia and Qatar were awarded their World Cups. Pardon me, Scots, if I'm murdering this. Anyways, the Swiss investigation is looking at more than 120 suspicious activity reports. So what that says to me is that I believe the 2022 World Cup from Qatar will be pulled from that country. And it shouldn't be just because of this investigations. I have to say, I keep saying this over and over. It's about the slave labor they're using over there.
Amen.
It's disgusting.
Of course.
So, there you go. 2 I believe. Sorry, I had to do it.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you. All right, now you got me doing it. All right, well, I understand. You got 2 I believes. I got two NFL and MLS team for whatever the categories we were talking about earlier. That's fine. I understand that. So my I believe is a little bit more outlandish, a little bit more West Wing, East Wing, depending on how you describe it. And it's
So it's the White House?
Yes, it's the White House of MLS, basically, is what it comes down to.
Oh, okay.
Although I did take Portland as my team to win MLS Cup 2015, I'm going a little outlandish, as I mentioned, that I believe that if Portland loses this game, that Caleb Porter will be fired, or not with the team next year. Regardless
Really?
if he walks away or he's fired, I think that if they don't win it, Caleb Porter uses that as his launching pad to go elsewhere.
Yeah, see, I don't believe that because I feel like if Portland hadn't made the playoffs, then yes, Porter would have been gone, and well-deserved.
Of course.
But he figured things out. He got his players to start really believing in what he's trying to do. He figured out what to do with Darlington Nagbe, and that really was the key. That Nagbe being in the middle there now really launches off a D, and I've talked about this before. He really becomes the heart of the team,
Agreed.
and that's what Porter's always wanted.
That's true.
So I feel like since he got things figured out now, it looks like for the long haul he's got things figured out. This is assuming all these players come back next year.
I was going to say that does assume a lot of things.
Right.
But who?
Well, my point is I think no matter what happens on Sunday, Porter's got a job in Portland.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, I agree to an extent, but like I said, I mean, it was more outlandish than it was anything just, if, hypothetically, if Columbus comes out and just boat races Portland, just destroys them by like 3 or 4 goals, Portland doesn't even show up to the game, they get lost on the way to the stadium, I think Caleb Porter would take that as an out and say, you know what?
Yeah.
I think I'm done, guys.
And I'd be going back to what I was saying before. Was that just a lucky 8-9 weeks that Portland had?
That is true.
I don't think
you
luck,
ragged on Porter all season long.
I did, but I've also taken back some of that with what he's done recently. But it does make you question, if Columbus comes out and wins 5-0, all right, well, maybe things aren't figured out in Portland.
Exactly. Maybe a new coach might be in the works. Maybe Jason Kreis might be looking for a new job there up in the great Cascadia region. All right. Well, thank you for tuning in to another exciting edition of 2 Up Front, presented by Sports Radio America. Remember, you can find us right here on Fridays from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern on Sports Radio America, sportsradioamerica.com, live 365, and tune in. You can also get us on demand by downloading our podcast on iTunes, on iHeartRadio, and on Spreaker.com as well.
And we're also on Facebook, 2 Up Front. We're on Twitter, of course, at 2 Up Front Soccer. Same handle for Instagram. We also have our own Twitter feeds, at Baxter Colburn. I did it again.
Colburn?
At Baxter Colburn.
I was going to say Colburn.
At Simon Provan. And one last thing to say. PTFC.
Woo!
RCTID.
There you go. That's the man, Simon Provan. He will be posting pictures on our social media accounts as well from the game live on Sunday. You don't miss it. Check out the unique view inside the stadium. Say hi to Kai for me. Say hi to Will, Diego,
I will.
all those guys.
I will.
Give them a high five if you can. Get a jersey. Just get a jersey exchange after the game. Bring it down there. So, all right. Well, thanks again for tuning in, folks. Remember, if you like what you hear, let us know. We always love hearing from you guys on social media and Periscope as well. Great interaction. Special thanks to Vavel USA's Afshin Zahraee for joining us as well. And we will see you all again next week, hopefully with a Portland victory in favor for Simon, so we can have a happy segment and not a grumpy Simon segment.
All I know is for the next few days, I'll be drinking a lot of coffee.
Exactly. Prepping yourself for that drive. All right.
That's right.
Well, everyone, enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the MLS Cup. Watch it. Don't forget about it. With our manager being the one above, we are 2 Up Front.